Wait, hold on. Is this on even? Oh, right. Hi. If you like the show, can you please leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast? Especially if you're listening on Apple, because it seems to really matter over there. Besides, you don't even have to write anything. Leaving 5 stars will do. If you don't like the show, however, well, that's your choice. But if you do like the show, it's a great way to help spread the word about the podcast and show your support. Believe me, I'm incredibly grateful. Alrighty, now on to the show. Hello, I'm Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Cesca Major to talk about her second chance novel, Maybe Next Time. In the novel, a woman must relive the same day over and over again, keep her family and work life from imploding, and attempt to spare her husband from an unfortunate fate. Cesca also talks about her reading and writing life, gives us some great book and bookstore recommendations, plus lots more. So let's get into the episode because I can't wait for you to listen to my chat with author Cesca Major. A memoir to add to your reading list is A Living Remedy by Nicole Chung. From the best-selling author of All You Can Ever Know, A Living Remedy is a memoir of a daughter's search to understand the lives her adoptive parents led, the life she forged as an adult, and the grief she experienced when she lost them both. A Living Remedy is also a memoir that exposes a broken healthcare system and the guilt one feels when you're not able to care for your loved ones. Ultimately, A Living Remedy is a super relatable memoir that tells the story of a daughter who felt robbed of the opportunity to give back to her parents. So be sure to add A Living Remedy by Nicole Chung to your reading list. It's available now in bookstores everywhere and wherever books are sold. Hi readers, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me to talk about her latest novel, Maybe Next Time, is Cesca Major. Hi Cesca, welcome to the Reader's Couch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay, I'm so excited you're here. Can't wait to talk about your book. But before we get there, I want to gauge your excitement. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about Maybe Next Time being out there in the world and that readers can just walk into a bookshop or go to the library and get their hands on a copy of your book?
So this is my 13th book, but it's my first book in America, which I think probably sums up how excited I am. And I literally just got an email from my editor saying, one of my colleagues just literally saw you in the front of Barnes and Noble, and it just blows my mind. It's just, it's something you've always dreamed about, just the idea that you're going to, get across to the States and try and get you guys reading my book is just really super exciting.
Absolutely. I couldn't even imagine the feeling, but yay, your book is here. I absolutely adored it. But before we kind of break things down and get to know Emma and Dan a bit more, I want readers to hear it straight from you. Tell us about Maybe Next Time and what can readers expect when they pick up your book?
So this is a book for, I think, women everywhere. Emma is possibly the most relatable protagonist that I've ever come up with because basically I felt like me. She is a busy literary agent. She works in the publishing world. She is juggling every aspect of her life. She is a colleague. She is a mother. She is a friend. She is a sister-in-law. She is a daughter. And she's also a partner to Dan. And he gets slipped down the list somewhat in her life and in her priorities. And we meet her on this very busy, normal Monday where the absolute worst thing happens to her at the end of the day. And when she wakes up the next day, all is well. It's the same Monday and she has to work out why she's stuck in this mad time loop and how can she break it.
Right, absolutely. I love a good time loop novel, but I have to agree with you, first of all, about Emma. I think she's incredibly relatable. I hate to admit this on air, but I did forget my husband's birthday one year and I felt terrible. Like, I was gutted. I was so gutted. And when I really think about it, it was just an incredibly busy time, incredibly busy year, but just that moment in time was just I felt I was falling behind on everything. So when I say Emma was just incredibly relatable to me, I mean, it was mad. And I think he's the greatest guy ever, but I forgot his birthday. I genuinely did. But in this case, Emma forgot their anniversary. In my opinion,
Yes.
same thing, you know?
Yes, exactly. So the normal Monday in her mind is absolutely not normal to Dan, who has remembered that it's the anniversary of the day they met. The anniversary is always the day where they both swap letters to each other. And she has forgotten. And not only has she forgotten, she's forgotten for the second year in the row. And obviously that really, really upsets her husband. And I think that's it. I still can't edit the first couple of chapters without feeling stressed because she's just being in Emma's head at that start of that book is exhausting. And I think a lot of women will relate, even if they're not mothers, but just, women take on so many roles and wear so many hats and also want to do things so well and feel so guilty when they can't. And I think it's a book for women everywhere that feel that.
Absolutely. So I'm really curious now, Cesca, what inspired you to write maybe next year and give us Emma and give us Dan? Like, where did this come from?
Oh my goodness. So I definitely, I as a busy writer and I had a husband who was away, COVID hit me hard as it hit, I'm sure, so many people with just how to squeeze your life into those gaps. And this book definitely was born out of a time where I was, I had at the time, I had a 2.5-year-old. I also had twin girls who were sort of a year old and he was 3, they were 18 months. They were around and my husband was away and I had a book deadline that I think my editor gave me a sort of a 3-week extension for. I had, what I was worried about parents and friends and trying to be sort of good and get on Zoom quizzes and, you remember it all. And I think I also just realized that because we were trapped in a house, so there's a line in actually the book where Dan says, if they had to lock me in a house, I'm glad it was with you. And there were so many moments in that time where I reflected on how much my husband and I do get on, how we do find the same things funny. We are, we really are best friends. And I think it made me a bit sad that I'd maybe forgotten that. And COVID really brought it home to me that actually, it was really wonderful to spend this sort of time when we could with each other and sort of living this madness together. It made our world, very small and intimate. And I think that was, the idea. I always wanted to write a book messing around with time. I loved the idea of it, but I felt like it was Emma really that came into my mind. And I thought, what could I do to somebody to reset their life? And that was the idea.
Love it, love it, love it as well. I couldn't agree with you more. It was just a really mad time. But I think, just like you, I was just reminded how much, my husband's my best friend, we're partners in everything and living our own lives, but we love living life together. So,
Absolutely, and just not getting, because it's so much logistics, isn't it? When you have,
oh,
it's so much, oh, you do that, or I'm going out on Saturday night with friends, or have you done that, or have you sent that card to X? And you definitely get
mhm.
swept up in, the busyness of the world. It's very hard, I think, to just go, breathe. It's about us. We actually chose to spend our lives together. Let's try and, remember why.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I want to get into the character of Dan a bit because there's a bit in the book that was quite interesting because there's also an added grief storyline on his part because he lost his mum. He also
Mm,
felt he was not able to be a proper like parent to his daughter, and he had thoughts and feelings about that. You
mm,
know, I loved reading that because I think it was very honest, So
yeah.
tell us a bit about Dan because we know Emma, she's the busybody, she's the one who's trying to keep everything, going and juggling. But I actually loved reading about Dan as well. So tell us about him.
Yeah, he's a really interesting character because in the present day, Dan has got his sort of life together much more than our protagonist, Emma. And he seems to have sort of worked out his priorities and seems to be able to sort of get quite a good balance going in his life. And I think it was really important to show not just this sort of perfect hero, but almost to show the journey he'd been on himself over the years to get to that point. And it
Hmm.
was really important to me that he had a very real, personality and experiences, and had his own flaws, and also had some very dark days himself. And we see in earlier letters. So we only meet Dan through the love letters that he
Yeah.
sends her every year on the anniversary, and we can chart the whole relationship through his eyes. And there is a very dark time early on in their relationship, where, as you say, he's basically loses his mother very soon before he then goes on to have his first child, and he just checks out. Essentially, he's really, probably, I suppose, if I was diagnosing him with some kind of sort of postnatal sort of depression, but also related to the loss of his mother. And I think that bringing it home to him that, this new life's come into the world, but his mother, who is so close to, has left this world. And he does not, he just can't cope, and he certainly can't be a good partner. And it's a really, really difficult time in their relationship where essentially they choose to sort of separate, and we see, that, and we see how that how they get through that time. And it also becomes, sort of very clear later in the book why that time is so important as well, which I won't
Um,
ruin.
No, no, absolutely. And I mean, again, I loved getting to know Dan. I love seeing him kind of go through those bits. It just, it added a level of richness to the story for me. What I really want to know, though, is the concept of us getting to know Dan, but even just the idea, because it was Emma's idea to exchange letters. Now, it's 2023 and very few people still send letters. I have a weekly newsletter that I send via email to readers who subscribe, and last holiday season I put out an offer to folks who kind of subscribe to my personal emails that I send on Sunday as opposed to the everybody email on a Friday. And I said, if anyone's interested in receiving just some snail mail, I'm writing cards. I can add you to my address book of sending out cards. And folks were just shocked by it. And all last year I had like two get-togethers. I do this little virtual festival for just readers, and I invited a girl who runs a oh gosh, what do you call it, a pen pal site.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, her website is Geek Girl Pen Pals, for anyone listening who wants to know. Her name's Joanna. She was amazing. She showed up twice, both in April and September, just to talk about the joys of snail mail and letter writing, and also the resurgence. But I just found it interesting that you chose letters in a time when folks aren't really sending snail mail as much. So tell me about that idea.
Well, I mean, they are such a romantic idea. And Emma herself, when she's early days with Dan, and we're talking, I think they're a 16, 17-year relationship. So it started back in, I think, 2007.
Mhm.
It was just actually, just when Facebook had started, social media wasn't really a thing. So it seemed fair enough, I suppose, that she sort of began this tradition between them. But it was deliberately old fashioned and deliberately romantic. And I think it was important to her to, I suppose, record the relationship, which is why it's so devastating to Dan, because the letters take on such an importance in their relationship. They're very truthful. They can hurt, and they're their chance to reflect on their relationship every year. And the fact that she's forgotten again is just so devastating for him. Worse. And then she goes on to lie about it. Sort of writes about 3 sentences on a napkin, pretty much, and just sort of pretends that she's, it's just awful. Their row on that first night is just so
Yeah.
awful. But it's just that romantic idea of being able to write something down, and it's a sort of love letter to love letters, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the book, which, I'm not going to go that deep because I'm not spoiling it for anyone. This is a spoiler free show, but we see Emma growing and changing every single day over and over again. And I guess it's a novelty, eh? If you know what's going to happen, it forces you to kind of slow down instead of just breezing on by. But I love seeing Emma just change over over and over again over time, and how she experiences not just her relationship with Dan, but also her family as a whole. That was kind of really beautiful to see. How did you feel about, just, I guess, opening Emma's eyes to what's really around her?
Yeah, it was good fun dealing with the different days, as it were, because obviously her mood is going to be very different when she's lived 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, 38 days, 100 days. She's going to be in a very different place, and she obviously goes through. We have some very sort of comic moments in the novel where she basically does wish fulfillment, where she tells people where to go and sends messages she would never send, and really sort of lets loose, and sort of gets trashed in the Ritz, and sort of just
Yeah.
goes wild. But yeah, a lot of it I wanted to seed every sort of secret into every family member, as it were. I also knew it was really important because it's a time loop, because it's repeating itself. I knew as an author I had to keep the reader intrigued and wanting to turn the page. So I wanted to seed in. I mean, I write thriller books as well, and it was a
Hmm.
sort of, I suppose, a bit of that of trying to put in secrets that would, and red herrings and things that the reader would be like, oh, I wonder whether we're ever going to get an answer to, the orange dots in the sink. And gradually you learn more and more about this family and more about how they all tie in together, and how Emma's going to be able to try to help them as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed writing those characters and those plots. And of course, her sister-in-law Hattie as well, who
Uh,
the female friendship there was just a really important part of the book. And again, born out of me having wonderful female friends, but again, because of the stage of my life, and because of the stage of theirs, perhaps not being as good a friend as I feel I want to be, and not having time for that person. So yeah, she was important as well.
I loved reading about Hattie. I actually love that dynamic right there. And it's so funny because just this past Sunday, I sent in an email saying, hey, my best girlfriend for 20 something years. I felt I've been a really bad friend. I haven't been in touch. And I just
Mm.
gave her a rang. And it was just kind of, picking back up where, we both were. And she has two young children now. So it's that challenge. But both of us kind of recognizing, yeah, we were really sucky friends.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And just being on it. I mean, none of my friends ever hold it against me, and I certainly would
Yeah,
never hold it against them. But you are aware, and you're aware people go through these momentous moments, and you do a
yeah,
bit, or you send flowers, or you do something, and then they drop out of your head for a week, or that it's just life is really, really hectic, busy, and a lot. And I suppose this book was, yeah, just trying to get you to realign and prioritize who you want to, and not waste your time on people that you don't.
absolutely. Well, listeners, take this as a sign. I said it on Sunday, and now I'm saying it here on the podcast. I hope you'll pick up maybe next time, but take it as a sign. Reach out to those people you love and care about, because one, you never know what's going to happen, but also two, life really is too short. It really is. All right, so I am curious. I'm going to put you on the spot now, Cheska. Who was your favorite character in the novel?
Oh, I mean, as much as she completely stresses me out, it does have to be Emma. I just every time I meet people that have read this book, women of a certain age, they always say to me, "I'm Emma." Like my agent says it to me, my editor says it to me, and I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm Emma." So, and we've established that we're all Emma. So she has to be my favorite. Just I really enjoyed staying in her brain. Yeah, I loved that character.
Hashtag we are all Emma. If you read this book, use that. I actually like that now.
Yeah.
We are all Emma. I should
Yes.
do that. We should do that. All right. I want to get into your writing life, Cheska. How long did it take for you to write and pull together maybe next time?
Well, I had the loose idea in sort of 2018, but I was under contract for other things. So I didn't start writing until 2020, but I was thinking about it an enormous amount in between the books that I was working on. And I think that really helped because it became sort of almost this real thing. And I was desperate to sort of start writing it. I outlined it. I do like to outline. I'm quite thorough in my outlines. I've definitely got way more thorough now that I write this number of books. I
Mhm.
didn't really start out as an outliner, but I do. I'm now a complete evangelical about it and very boring about it. But I do obviously things happen in the writing process, and things change. And actually, there's a twist in the book, which obviously I won't ruin, but that landed, in my lap. I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. So I then ended up, changing my outline and moving forward. But ultimately, I plan it, so that always takes sort of 2-3 months maybe, and then I'm reasonably fast. I write a first draft probably within about the same time, 2 or 3 months. And then, of course, the editing, which frankly can take anywhere from, a few drafts to I don't know how many drafts I've done. It's just, there's always something else. You'll always find something else. You'll always find something you can improve. Even now, it's published. That's why I never read them when they're published, because you'll still want to just tinker and change stuff and add stuff, and it's deadly. It's absolutely deadly. It's why you end up writing another book. It's just totally addictive. It's true.
Love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so maybe next time is your 13th novel. You said it at the top of the show. I found this info online. You've published books under the name CD Major, Rosie Blake, Ruby Hummingbird in the past. Like, you have been doing it all, Cesca. But how would you say your writing process and publishing journey, how has it changed or evolved? Or maybe how is it same over the years?
I definitely, as I said, definitely become more of an outliner. I think that I could never have written Maybe Next Time 5 books ago. I think that my mix of genres almost brought me to this point, and I found a genre that I just absolutely love, which is sort of speculative love stories. And I think it was a mix of being a thriller writer. I write very sort of dark, nasty, normally supernatural thrillers as CD Major, but also writing more rom-coms as Rosie Blake, and then women's fiction as Ruby Hummingbird, and they were very emotional. And I think mixing the emotion with, as I said, the sort of the trying to get the propulsion of a thriller, trying to get the reader to really be invested in those secrets. I really think women's fiction can be elevated when you have that page turning quality. So that's what I was desperately trying to do, and I really felt that all of the books have sort of led me to Maybe Next Time. That's sort of how I felt.
Well, I can tell you, I couldn't stop turning the pages, so I, I just wanted to know what was going on each and every day, even though it was the same. So yeah,
Good.
you know, that's a testament to you as a writer and just, giving us that propulsion as well. But I want to know if you could tell your younger writing self anything, because now this is book 13. This is also the book that has made it here in the States. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, Cesca, what would it be?
I half don't want to, because obviously everything has led me to where I've got to, and I'm really proud, and I'm sort of pleased to be quite experienced and doing this now rather than doing it as an inexperienced writer. However, I suppose I definitely could have saved myself some time and angst. I think if you have a book idea and if your listeners are thinking of writing, I would say, it's a hard market out there. I would say you do need to be able to summarize a book. You need to be able to pitch a book succinctly and briefly. That awful phrase log line. I think I probably always try to come up with an idea and ask myself as well, what are you trying to say? What is this book actually about? Not just the plot and the characters, but what are you actually trying to sort of actually get across to the reader? Because I think you do need something that you care about. And I think maybe that's what people mean when they say, write what you know. I don't think it is, just because you're a hairdresser, you write about hairdressing. I think it's more, what have you experienced? What has been in your life? What themes are in your life that you want to explore and that you're the right person to? So, yeah, I suppose, but I would say, maybe think about your pitch rather than my early books are, well, there's this girl and there's a really good, and then there's a dog. I mean, they're excellent books, obviously, but yeah, I might have been able to help myself by pitching them a bit better.
Right. Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I know this is a really mean, kind of greedy question, but are you working on any other projects, Cesca? What can you tell us?
I am. I'm working on the adaptation, actually, of the next Cesca Major book. So I'm doing a body swap, which is called If I Were You, which I'm really excited about, which is out next year. And I'm working on adapting it. So I'm a screenwriter as well. And I'm working on the film. So I'm having a lot of fun. And then I'll be outlining a new speculative love story. So yeah, it's all go.
Ooh, amazing. How exciting. That's really, really, really exciting. But glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. All right, let's get into your reading life because, yes, we're here talking about maybe next time, but we want to know what our favorite authors are reading. So, tell me about the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend.
Oh, I love a book. I have read, obviously Lessons in Chemistry, which I almost feel silly because everyone's surely read that book now. But that protagonist was fantastic. Elizabeth Zott, you just want to be Elizabeth Zott in your life. Just an absolutely formidable character. And I just loved her story. Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes was fantastic, about two very different women who essentially collide with a gym bag, that they swap gym bags and they end up with each other's sort of lives and get sort of embroiled in that. Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason, that was fantastic. A brilliant thriller by Ruth Ware, The It Girl. A memoir, Free, by Leah Eep, is it? I can't pronounce YPI. But it's such a fantastic memoir about her childhood and growing up in a regime, and her eyes are opened as a teenager as to what she's been living through. So yeah, I've read. I do love to read. So yeah, I've read some brilliant things.
Amazing. And what would you say was your favorite childhood book that you can remember?
I think the books that sparked my imagination are the Magic Faraway Tree books by Enid Blyton. I
Mhm.
still even actually in COVID, I returned to them to read with my son. But there was just such a joy in that, the world above the trees, the different worlds, just the imagination to go up a tree and find the land of treats or the land of goodies. Those really stuck with me as a child. Of just I think the possibilities in books to really transport you somewhere.
Have you read any classics lately?
Oh, I've been reading the Regency, Georgette Heyer. Yeah, people have been getting the Grand Sophie. That was fantastic. Is she a classic? I think she is, and obviously Susan Hill as well with her terrifying ghost stories. I love her. Yeah.
Amazing. So, what books are you looking forward now to reading in the year ahead?
Oh my goodness, I have such a long list. Obviously the next Lisa Jewell. She's just my
Yeah.
absolute go-to, have to buy everything that she does. Emily Henry, for sure. I've got Happy Place on my Kindle, but I've also still haven't read Book Lovers, which I'm desperate to read. And that's also set in publishing actually, so I really want to read that one.
Mhm.
I'm going to reread Daisy Jones and the Six, because obviously it's out on Prime now, and I want to reread the book. And I've got the sequel to the Love Hypothesis as well. What's that one? I've forgotten its title, but I've got that as well waiting for me. I've got lots waiting for me.
Sounds like it. And I'm actually, so we have a book in common. I'm going to reread, but a friend recommended listening to the audio of Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, because that was really good, she was saying. So, because I had read the book originally, she's like, no, this time around, listen to the audio and then go watch it on Prime. I'm like, okay, will do.
Absolutely.
All right. So, in addition to books and reading, we also love our bookstores and we love our booksellers. So, share with our listeners one of your, or maybe two or three, favorite indie bookstores.
Obviously, in the US, so I visited New York in January, and I had a really warm and lovely welcome to the most beautiful bookshop, which was McNally Jackson.
Yeah.
And they were just lovely in there. And also, it was such a treat. It was just such a beautiful selection of books. Over here in the UK, you've got the Bell Bookshop in Henley-on-Thames. If you guys come over here, please go and visit them. They are just so gorgeous and wonderful. And that's, yeah, probably one of my favourite books. And Wallingford Bookshop is down the road from me. And again, they do a really brilliant selection. So,
Amazing. We love our booksellers. They're just hands down great people.
yes, here, for sure.
All right, so let's get back to maybe next time. Again, I know you've done your job, you've written it, and like you said, if you probably read it again, you know, there are many things you'd want to change. But as is, for readers who are now reading it for the first time, after they've turned the very last page, what are you hoping for? What thoughts are you hoping they might have? What feelings they might have, or what they might be discussing with your friends? In an ideal world, what are you hoping for?
So the reviews have been clear that the ending, I've had a lot of oh my goodness, Cesca Major, we need to talk. It's perfect, but also I'm crying. I want people to obviously not be able to do anything for a great deal of time because they're crying so hard that they can barely breathe. But when they come up for air, actually want them to look at their own life and think, can they do an Emma, and what would they maybe change? But yeah, I mean, hopefully they just really enjoy it. Obviously, then also go straight to the internet and give me an incredible review.
Yeah.
Also that. But no, I really do hope that it really makes people feel something, and they really, and I hope they love the ending. I hope they feel the ending is perfect for the story.
Amazing. I love it. Cesca, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.